You are listening to chartingwealth.com for Thursday, the 6th of July, 2017. We see that the markets, everything is up for the day, from the NASDAQ 100 QQQ to the S&P 500 to gold to bonds. Everything very interesting. Let's jump right into the S&P 500. What do we see going on? Well, we have a weekly vertical crossover going down that's still in effect. That occurred back on the week ending the 23rd of June. We also have a two-day trend line going down. The market has been and is sliding sideways, trending down, but really still sliding sideways. As we look at that two-day chart, we can see that the price movement is still below the two-day trend line. We see that the trend is not moving down quite as much as far as the PPO. It's actually not going at the same angle it was going. It's leveled off a little bit, and the derivative oscillator is not going down at the same angle. So we have both the weekly chart down and the two-day chart down. As we look closer into those things, we look at this 4-hour chart, we see that we have a backup underway on the 4-hour chart. And of course, once that crosses back over going down, we may have an entry point. We don't have it yet. We've been waiting for this backup for quite a while since the weekly vertical crossover occurred. And the 4-hour chart is backing up now. So our trigger will be if and when this 4-hour chart rotates back over going down. Remember our rule. The weekly and the two-day have to be going in the same direction. That is followed by a backup on the 4-hour chart in the opposite direction, and then a rotation back over in the direction of the weekly and the two-day chart. That's how simple it is. And that's how complicated it can be. But when it works, it works. When it doesn't, we don't have to trade, folks. We don't. Other thing that's continued to concern us on the S&P is that the derivative oscillators never switched over to the negative on the weekly chart. That may be happening soon. That will make us feel a whole lot better. So we'll continue to watch these things as they move along. And don't forget, we do have those rules where you don't have to wait for the pullback if you're trading simply on our weekly vertical crossover. And that rule, we've got a couple of sets of rules. All those are taught to you in the course of the training. All that training is available at chartingwealth.com. But of course, that rule is jumping in at 10:30 a.m. on the Monday following that weekly vertical crossover going down. Several caveats there. Some folks just do it. They just buy in at 10:30 and let it ride. And the way these charts work, they almost always work. It almost always works. You can see every now and then, like happened back at the end of May, beginning of June, we had a crossover. Didn't last very long, about $1 up. We had another one all the way back in June of last year. Again, a year ago. So what, within 2 years, you've had a couple of fakes? That's it? With the other crossovers that we have had that have worked beautifully. So again, we live, we learn, we practice, we correct. We use charts that work, and when the charts don't work, we don't use them. And again, we trade when everything is telling us to trade. We don't force trades. Let's look at what's going on QQQ. Of course, we have a weekly vertical crossover in effect along with a two-day vertical crossover, both going down. And we see derivative oscillators going down nicely, as is the price percent oscillator. Up for the day about 1%. As we look at our two-day chart, what do we see? We see, of course, we're well below the two-day trend line. We could probably draw a better line at this point. And again, price movement is below that two-day trend line. Let's zoom into the 4-hour chart, see what we see. 4-hour chart may be trying to correct itself. Do pay close attention to that. If you have been in a trade since we had the pullback and the crossover going down there in the afternoon on the 27th, we've had nice price movement, but do be very careful not to lose what you've gained. You might want to really pay attention as to when and if that 2-day trend line is penetrated. Might be a signal for you to get out if this 4-hour chart continues to correct itself and starts moving back over and up in a 4-hour vertical crossover. You don't have to, because the weekly chart and the 2-day chart are still moving down nicely, but you can. It depends on how often you want to monkey around with the charts. Again, typically these weekly vertical crossovers last for weeks. They don't always, and you can take what profit you have when you have it and enjoy it, because it's yours if and when you take it. Let's keep moving through these charts. We'll go back to the weekly. Now we'll take a look at the 20-year bond fund. Of course, we are not in that right now because we have a little bit of schizophrenia going on. Our weekly chart is still going up. The 2-day chart is going down. The 2-day, of course, has to match the weekly in its movement so we can properly trend follow. It is not doing that. 2-day chart is still going down, even though TLT was up just barely for the day, 0.02%. We don't have a trade in TLT. We'll wait for enough of this down movement on the 2-day chart to pull that weekly chart over. Then we might have something to do, or the thing to keep watching for, as long as the weekly's in an uptrend. If this 2-day chart does rotate back over going up, you might have a good entry point at that time. So we'll continue to watch, keep our powder dry, and watch the 20-year bond fund. Of course, we had a wonderful return on that over the course of the last month. Now let's look at gold. Gold, of course, we had a weekly vertical crossover going down on the week ending the 30th of June. We sent out notices of that to everyone who is subscribed to our text notification service. That is free. You just have to sign up for it. You text to the number 33222 the word charting wealth, one word. Those instructions and all the benefits that we have, the daily market worksheet, weekly market worksheet, trader sheet, the layout that we have at freestockcharts.com available for you, and the how to read a stock chart video, all of those are available for free to everybody who subscribes to the daily market review. And you subscribe to that for free at chartingwealth.com. Please make sure to do that. Weekly chart is going down. 2-day chart is going down. Let's take a look at the 2-day chart on gold. Of course, it has been going down since that weekly vertical crossover, or daily, 2-day vertical crossover occurred back on the 16th of June. And as we continue to watch that underway, let's check out the 4-hour chart. Of course, as we talked about, it crossed over going down back on Monday the 3rd at 12 noon and went ahead and settled down, kept moving down, and have sort of bottomed out, up a little bit for the day, 0.37%. So again, we do have a potential trade in effect for gold going down. Our 4-hour chart's moving in the same direction as our 2-day and our weekly chart, which is always good to see. We'll continue to keep an eye on gold. Remember how prescient that 4-hour chart is. If it doesn't hold up for us and starts moving back up, get very concerned about where gold is going. It could be bottoming out somewhere around the 116 mark. But again, when we look back, gold still has some room to move down to 115 or all the way down to 114, depending on if it goes back to the March lows. And of course, we had the low lows back in December and January of 107. So we'll just continue to see what the charts tell us and do our best to follow those trends. That's where we are, folks, at the end of the day, after the vacation on the 4th, at the end of the day on the 5th, as we go into Thursday the 6th. Please make sure that you listen to our monthly success report. We just prepared the one for June since that month just ended. It is now up and available. The links are with the email that you get every day. The markets are open and we do our market review. Check that link, listen to it. Let us hear from you. CW@chartingwealth.com. God bless. All the best from your friends here on the team at chartingwealth.com.